putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
I have good news for you, America. The left doesn't want you to know the good news, though. But luckily for you, you are listening to the Kevin Jackson Show and you are hearing the good news. You remember when knowing God was considered good news? That's what they would do. I think there's a good news Bible. I grew up in a religious family. We weren't like, we didn't sit around reading Bible verses or anything, but we went to church every Sunday. And I'll be honest, when I was a kid, it was like, it was drudgery. It isn't like going to church today where kids have their own little special areas and they learn, from a kiddie Bible and, they come back, they learn stuff. My kids went to, that type of a church. And so they learned about the Bible. They could quote scripture and they knew the stories and what they meant and all that. It wasn't, when I went to church, I could tell you the story of the Ark of the Covenant, when Jericho, the walls came tumbling down. I could tell you a couple of stories, Easter story, whatever. Christmas, there's a couple of things, but you didn't like study the Bible and understand the churches and the very, Corinthians and Ephesians and whatever else. You didn't understand it. You were just like, and we're going to read from Ephesians chapter such and such verses this and that and no, go forth and do that and be thou this way. And so that was what you learned. As I got older, I wanted to learn, go to a church that was sort of a study church where they say we're going to have 6 weeks of this study on, 2 Corinthians or we're going to study the Gospels or whatever else. Oh, okay, cool. And you can commit things to memory. I like that. I like growing up religious. I like growing up understanding my place in the world. But somewhere along the line, knowing God got ridiculed. It became ridicule, something for people to make fun about. The left tried to shame God out of our lives. I'm not trying to preach here. I'm setting this up for some other stuff. For those of you who are going, when did I turn it on to a religious channel? Huh? Billy Graham died, didn't he? That don't sound like Billy Graham, is it? No, I'm not Billy Graham. Billy Graham was a hero to me. If I were anywhere close to that man, I would consider myself an amazing success. Anyway, the left tried to shame God out of you. They try to shame it out of your kids right now. If your child is religious and goes to college, they will try to shame it out of him. You need to come hang out with us at spring break. Are you watching these spring break celebrations? They have security people at all these beach resorts, FBI even, undercovers. Because the stuff that goes on at these spring breaks will blow your mind. One of the spring breaks, I think it was a couple years ago, a girl was raped publicly by multiple kids and others just stood around. I mean, how does that even happen? Was she so toasted out of her mind that, what could you possibly be saying? If you see a girl that drunk, you'd have to be, if you were sane, I would hope you'd raise your kids and say, what are you guys doing? On the cell phone calling the cops. She's plastered. Or certainly, if she wasn't plastered and they, people were surrounding her and doing this, like that Jodie Foster film. How do you do this? How do you let people get away with this kind of thing? This is what's going on right now. You think these kids that are celebrating spring break are down there thinking about how they were raised in God and what would Jesus do? You think they got their what would Jesus do bands on? Come on, man. And the overwhelming of those kids are looking for these parties, looking for things to get into. And look, I'm all about have fun, be with your buddies for spring break. But the stuff that these people do is crazy. Girls gone wild, boys gone wild. Co-eds, students gone wild. American millennials gone wild. It's crazy. So there's a peace that comes from understanding how insignificant you are is when you're alone, when you don't have that thing that you hold on to. But there's also a peace that comes from knowing how big you are when you say to yourself that God's in control of you, that there's a something driving that's bigger than you. If you get up in the morning and you think you're significant, you're listening to this program, you're going, that Kevin Jackson, he's significant. I am insignificant. I just want to be truthful with you. I am insignificant. So failed, so flawed, it's ridiculous. And the only thing that makes me powerful, if you will, is I understand how small I am in the scheme of things, how worthless I am, because there's something better. But here's the deal. What drives us to share this time together, for you to listen to me and for me to, know that you're listening to me, because I can't obviously hear you, is that I know there's a bigger purpose to all of this. Am I trying to figure it out? No, there is nothing to figure out. See, let me tell you why. There's nothing to figure out, because all I care about is the truth, and that's all you care about. It isn't an agenda. It isn't, hey, Kevin Jackson's going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. That ain't happening. I've been doing this a long time. I don't even care. Maybe that's part of the reason why. God hasn't said to me, Kevin, you will get up and you're going to be driven today, and you're going to make this happen. Now, I've given myself ultimatums regarding my time, because I'm getting less and less of it. So are you, by the way. So are your kids and your grandkids. We all have less and less of it. But as we get closer to our end, in other words, I'm on the back end of the mountain here, and it ain't downhill. What they don't tell you is when you get over the mountain, it's just a bigger mountain range. It's a lot smaller to climb, but it's a lot more difficult. An acquaintance of mine climbed Mount Everest 3 times. When I say climbed it, he failed the first time, and he was probably 2,000 yards or so from summiting, and then 2,000 feet, I should say. Then the second time he did it, he was 100 yards from the top. And he didn't make it. Now we look at it and you go, he's 100,000 yards from the top and he didn't make it? What kind of crazy man was that? And if you knew everything it took to get there and all the orchestration, you'd go, surely he'd go that last 100,000 yards. It would be just in sheer will. No, it would have been certain death. That's what it would have been. So we're at we're trying to get that last 100 yards when you get older. So time becomes precious, more precious to you, and you understand that you need to get closer to something to understand, what was this all about? What was the meaning of all of this? That's what Solomon talked about at the very end of his life. What was it about? He had amassed all the riches and the intellect. He was the smartest man that ever lived, and he was the richest man that ever lived. He would have been worth, I think they said something like $4 trillion or $40 trillion in today's terms. And he said, after all of this, all of the knowledge, all of the money I've amassed, he says, at the end of the day, the translated word, I believe, is vapor. Vapor. So why do we get up? Why do we do this? Because we do it for truth. If I wanted to go do something and make more money and drive, if I want to go get myself a Bugatti, I'll go get a Bugatti. Give me a Lamborghini. I saw both of those cars, by the way, when I was in LA. I could go get those. But, okay, I'd get them, and then what? Chase, what? Oh, Kevin, hey, get a TV show. Fox gives me a TV show or somebody gives me a TV show, great. Are we going to pursue our mission? Absolutely. But so what? You get a TV show. A few more people know you. Who cares? I don't care. I don't care if anybody knows me. The only reason why I have to be known is to spread the word. Why? Because that's where the truth is. We have people demonizing you, demonizing your kids, demonizing our way of life. Because why? We want to tell the truth about things. I don't want to mislead anybody. Particularly, I'm not talking. I mean, if you want to ask me a question that I think is personal, I may throw you off the track just to make you spin you around, have some fun. But if you ask me something like, Kevin, what advice would you give to my kids, or what advice would you give to me about my business or about my life or whatever? I would not intentionally mislead you. I want you to have a very fruitful life. By the way, I say this to liberals, leftists listening to this program. If you are sincere about what you want from me, I will give you everything. I've taught martial arts most of my adult life, and the best compliment I ever got was, Kevin, you never hold back. You give everything when you teach. You find a kid that can theoretically beat you, you teach him how to beat you. Most instructors don't want to do that. I want to teach you how to be the best you could possibly be. And that's what we do this. And so we get a guy elected that gives us the highest consumer confidence in 14 years, lowest unemployment for minorities, lowest unemployment for women, the best quarter of income for the federal government in history. And I could go on, and these people fight him. But things are changing, folks. We are starting to see things all over the world begin to change because of the decisions that we've made, because we've decided that we want to deliver truth to folks. I got to leave it there for now. We'll be back.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.